What is real and what is fake? In our age of technology, anything can seem real, but things get more problematic when religion is involved. Many devout Catholics might find this video offensive, or they might see it as a simple prank. But the reality is this: our bodies can't tell what's real and what isn't. Even though know that we're watching a movie, our body really can't tell the difference. Hi, I'm Ryan Roll, and today we're taking a closer look at how social technologies act as a venue to bring the supernatural and religion closer to our reality. In his article Words, Brent Play puts it poetically. The goal of the medium, like film, is to keep, quote, speeding up the mechanically visual process of reading so the reader no longer feels her or his self to be reading words. The materiality of the words seems to disappear. But it is only through this materiality that the mediated form and the secret spell occurs. Basically, without this idea of words, we don't have the concept itself. We don't have that spiritual, religious element. Many films claim this religious element by basing it on a true story, or by hiding supernatural elements behind seemingly normal occurrences. They often ground the story in a normal background, something innocent, like a family playing hide and seek. This makes the movie more compelling because it blurs the line between what's real and what's not. The medium disappears. For this case study, I'd like to focus on an unlikely film, The Case for Christ, a film based on the book of the same name. It's about a reporter who tries to prove Christianity false, but becomes a Christian in the midst of his investigation. This film was produced by a Christian Netflix alternative called PureFlix, well known for movies like God's Not Dead. This movie did modestly at the box office, returning $14 million inside of a budget of $5 million, a budget that was twice as high as God's Not Dead's $2 million, which for its part made $60 million. It's safe to say this movie was not as successful as its older brother. Still, it found its niche in more academically minded Christian communities, drilling more into the apologetics or justifications of Christians' faith and avoiding supernatural events altogether. But that last sentence is why this movie is so interesting within the context of social technology. It's precisely the decision not to include supernatural occurrences and to stick to a purely logical argument that serves as the ethos for this movie. There are a few ways that this movie establishes itself as simultaneously religious and authentic in this context. First, it leans into the premise that this film is based on a true story, like I mentioned. Pasulka notes that a key social technology that films use is montage of real photos during the credits to quickly establish the link between the real world in this in-between period where the audience is still in the theater, and so they're in the real world, but the film isn't quite over. Case for Christ leans into this model by including lots of title screens with based on a true story in its advertising, and also a montage of the real life persons in the credits. Secondly, on a deeper level, this movie seeks to break down skepticism associated with God and the supernatural by showing absolutely nothing supernatural in this movie. The directors took this technique to the extreme in the way it portrays each of these, let's call them academic apologetic sages that Lee Strobel goes to visit. Watch here.
So, my line of attack is this.
The reason the eyewitnesses were able to see Jesus after Golgotha is because he never died on the cross.
Because if he doesn't die, there's no resurrection, yes?
That's right. So whether or not Jesus himself or someone else took him off of the cross early, or if he fakes his own death, it doesn't matter. It completely discounts every aspect of the resurrection.
Notice how the informant is clearly engrossed in what can only be assumed to be a deeply important and academically rigorous activity while he's talking to Lee. Think how differently this scene would have felt if we found the same character in a gi or robe balanced on top of a rock high in the Himalayas. Additionally, every one of Lee's questions is answered in a sort of matter-of-fact manner. This, to quote Pasulka, forges an impression of reality, an impression that reality is unfolding by itself in front of our eyes. As the audiences, we can't help but believe everything being shown by this sage must be real, because it fits with our context of what fact must be. He's a fact-related person, so he must be only saying facts. It's like when you have a doctor and you're saying, this toothpaste is recommended by 1 out of 5 doctors. Now, this interaction here brings us to the third theme seen throughout the movie: how the film confronts non-believers' doubts and implicitly tries to convert them. In every scene where Lee brings up a challenge of the resurrection, he is immediately disproved right away. And if further doubts reside, the character insists that the problem is Lee's own stubbornness to see the facts.
Stop blaming me and the church and God and do your job.
The creators of this film make it clear that spreading the religion of Christianity is a key goal of this film.
How to invite someone to come attend the movie with you, The Case for Christ. It's much easier to invite someone to a movie than it is to church.
They could have just copied God's Not Dead, made something for more of the white evangelical masses, and they have done that at other times, but this movie had a different goal. It was meant to reach out to people more on the fringe, maybe some atheists or agnostics in theory. In closing, this film is religious because it uses social technology to create a facade of reality that helps the audience to visualize the invisible as something not far away, but tangible and provable. At the end of the movie, Lee Strobel states this:
All right, God. You win.
the viewer sees this scene not as some supernatural occurrence. It wasn't like God necessarily came into him and made him think this, but it's actually perfectly logical given the facts because of how the movie presents itself. And with that, Case for Christ closed.